In the heart of the Scottish Highlands, nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, lies Loch Ness, a deep, dark body of water so vast and mysterious that even the locals tread cautiously near its shores. The loch, shrouded in mist and legend, has been the subject of whispers, rumours, and sightings of a creature that lurks within its depths. It was said to be a beast from another time, a survivor from an ancient world, a creature of scale and sinew, with eyes as old as the hills themselves. For centuries, the stories of the Loch Ness Monster, affectionately known as Nessie, has captured the world, but to those who live nearby, the creature was more than a myth. It was a part of the land, an entity that coexisted with the loch itself. They didn't speak of her much out of respect, or perhaps fear. But when the evening fog rolled in and the wind howled across the water, you could almost feel her presence hidden just beneath the surface. Among the village of Drana Drochit, a small town on the loch's edge, lived an old fisherman named Owen. He had spent his entire life on the loch, his boat weathered by years of use and his hands calloused by the ropes and nets. Owen had heard the stories, of course, just like everyone else, but he never put much stock into them. The loch was a place full of secrets, and it was easy for people to get carried away with its tales. It wasn't until that fateful evening, when the fog rolled in thicker than usual, that Owen had learned the truth of Nessie's existence. It had been an unseasonably warm summer day, and Owen had spent most of it out on the water, his boat gliding silently across the rippling surface. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the hills, and Owen knew it was time to head home. But as he turned the boat towards shore, a sudden chill washed over him, and the fog began to roll in. From the east, thick and impenetrable within moments, the loch had disappeared from view, the world reduced to an eerie, ghostly silence. Owen gripped the tiller tighter, squinting in the fog, but he couldn't make out the shore. His old eyes strained to see anything familiar, but the loch seemed to stretch on forever, the water now completely still. Then he heard it, a faint splash, a subtle ripple in the water. Owen's heart skipped. He wasn't alone. He turned towards the sound, but in the thick mist he could see nothing. The splash had come from the far side of his boat, distant but unmistakable. Another ripple followed, this time larger, as though something heavy had surfaced. The air seemed to hum with an unnatural energy, and for the first time in his life, Owen felt a sense of dread deep in his bones. He called out, his voice hoarse in the silence. "Who's there?" No answer. The ripples continued, growing closer, more pronounced, as if something was circling his boat. Then he heard it again, this time much louder, a powerful splash, like the sound of a great creature rising from the depths. His heart pounded in his chest, and his hands shook as he gripped the tiller. Suddenly, there was a sound that made his blood freeze, something large breaking through the water's surface, something with a deep, resonant growl, like the call of some ancient, forgotten beast. Owen dared a glance into the mist, and that's when he saw it. A dark shape, massive, and gliding smoothly beneath the surface of the loch. It was long, with rippling, sinuous movements, like the body of a serpent, its back covered in rough, glistening scales, shimmered faintly in the moonlight, casting strange reflections on the water. Like the body of a serpent, its back covered in rough, glistening scales, shimmered faintly in the moonlight, casting strange reflections on the water. The creature's massive, curved neck rose from the depths, its head breaking the surface for a brief moment, eyes glowing an eerie yellow in the dark. The creature's gaze met his, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. The creature's mouth opened slightly, revealing rows of sharp teeth, but it didn't growl or roar. Instead, it made a low, mournful sound, a hum that reverberated through the boat and into Owen's chest. It was the sound of an ancient being, a creature who had existed long before humans had ever set foot on these shores. Owen's breath caught his throat. He couldn't move. He was transfixed, staring into the eyes of the Loch Ness monster, Nessie herself. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, as if seeing his fear, Nessie slowly sank back into the depths, her body disappearing beneath the murky water, leaving nothing behind but the quiet ripples of her passage. Owen sat there, frozen, the weight of what he had just witnessed pressing down on him like a stone. His mind raced. He had heard the legends, but he never truly believed them until now. The fog began to lift, slowly, and the familiar shores of the loch emerged from the mist. The night was still, the only sound the faint lapping of the water against the boat. Owen, trembling, started the engine and slowly made his way back to the village. When he arrived at the dock, his hands were still shaking, and his heart had not yet stopped pounding. He didn't speak a word to anyone about what he had seen that night. The villagers would have thought he was mad, and he wasn't sure he wanted to share such an encounter with anyone anyway. The world wasn't ready to know about Nessie, and Owen wasn't sure if he was either. But from that night on, Owen never looked at Loch Ness the same way again. Every time he cast his nets or set out in his boat, he could feel the presence of the great beast beneath him, watching, waiting, just out of sight. He knew now that the loch held more than just water and fish. It held ancient secrets, secrets that even time couldn't erase. And sometimes, when the fog rolled in thick and heavy, and the wind whispered through the hills, Owen would hear the faintest of sounds, a soft hum, like the creature's mournful song, floating on the air, reminding him that some legends are more than just stories. Some legends are real.